Welcome back, everyone. The Conversation's live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. For our radio audience tuning in here in Mississippi at WYED 94.1 FM and WYEDonline.com, we're glad that you all can be with us. Also join us online worldwide via our podcast. We're glad you all could be with us as well. I am very excited about our next guest, and I know the summer may be winding down. If you guys are looking for a great book that will definitely have you flipping through the pages and also telling your friends about it, I think you guys are going to want to stick around for this next one. We're excited to welcome back best-selling author Jeffery Deaver to our broadcast today. He, along with Isabella Maldonado, have written a great new book that's already an Amazon bestseller called FATAL Intrusion. We're going to talk to Jeffery and Isabella not only about the writing of the book, but what it was like for them to bring these characters to life, the suspense that we're able to get in the book, but also what it's been like for them already to be able to share these characters with you, the readers. If you all are just now finding out about the book, of course we'll let you know how to get your own copy and stay connected with the authors as well. Jeffery, we're going to kick things off with you. Thank you again for spending some time with us.
Oh, I was delighted. We had a great conversation a few years ago, and I'm so delighted to be back.
Well, look, I appreciate that. I appreciate the time. You know, I always, it's one thing to be able to read some of my favorite authors. I find it a joy to be able to have this type of time. As we mentioned, actually in the previous conversations we were talking before we went live here, Jeffery, the response is already coming for Fatal Intrusion. You already had one book event as well. What has it been like for you to see the way that readers are responding to these characters?
Well, we were very fortunate, Isabella and I, that the book was picked for a program called Amazon First Reads. And the book is made available to many, many people out there. And we already have thousands of 4.5 to 5-star reviews for the book. And I have to say that it's just very encouraging to see that, because we can talk a little bit about how Isabella and I sat down to come up with the idea together. But the reason we're working together is that we realize we both have the same concept of a book, which is, well, you could call it a thriller, crime thriller. You could also call it a roller coaster. I call it a roller coaster meets an illusionist, because it's so full, as you know, of the misdirections and the surprises and everything. And so the response has just been absolutely wonderful. And, you know, frankly, it was the first book I've ever written with anyone, the first book she's ever written with anyone. And we weren't quite sure how it was going to go, but that's the end result, and seems to be doing well.
Yeah, Jeffery, to that point, I heard Isabella and you when I was prepping for this segment, being the nerd that I am, I go back and I listen to or I watch previous conversations once, so I don't keep asking you the same questions over that you've been asked already, but also to kind of get a flavor of what it's been like. I thought it was really fascinating in hearing Isabella talk about that, how the two of you met at a green room with another author and got a chance to kind of have a rapport together, and then, of course, the idea of, you know, being able to do something together and realize kind of being kindred spirits, you know, in the literary way, in your style. Talk to us about that experience, because I can imagine, of course, for any reader, I mean, what's better than having two of your favorite authors together? What has it been like for you to see the way that readers are responding to you being paired with another author?
Two for the price of one, you might say.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you how it came out. This is kind of a funny story. Isabella and I were appearing with Gillian Flynn, the wonderful author of Gone Girl. And as authors do, we're sitting in the green room, you know, the prep room, before we go on to our presentation. And we're just cutting up. You know, authors do that. We have a lot of fun in this business. And we said, you know what, there's never been a book about a baby mafioso. I don't know how this came about, you know, and it's like The Godfather in Pampers. And so we said, well, let's all write this together. And thank goodness that idea died a quick death, because it's frankly a stupid idea. But the concept of collaborating remained, and Gillian was going on to do other things. But Isabella and I said, well, let's talk about it, because as I was mentioning, we write the same kind of book, just a fast-paced thriller, and it turned out we actually approached the book, the construction of the book, the same way. We do an outline, a very long outline. This one turned out to be about 40 or 50 pages.
Wow.
And you've read the book, of course. You know it's so full of twists and turns and surprises.
Right.
So we had to plan it out ahead of time. And then we divided up the chapters, because we have two characters. One is Carmen Sanchez, and she works for the Department of Homeland Security Investigations Division. That's the police arm of DHS. And then the alternative fellow she works with is named Jake Heron, and he's kind of a quirky fellow, a professor who's got a bee in his bonnet about intrusion, and together they form this unlikely duo to stop what appears to be a serial killer roaming the streets of Southern California. And you heard the emphasis on that word appears to be, because Cyrus, as you know, everything in my books is, not exactly the way it appears.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it's funny that you bring up the two characters there with Sanchez and Heron, because even their being paired together, so to speak, is something people may not expect, right? And seeing how they're able to do that. And I would say this, too, as you're known for, and I'm sure Isabella's readers would say this as well, you give us some great auxiliary characters in here as well, Jeffrey, that also are as intriguing. Talk to us about that part. Is that part of the planning as well, or is it something that kind of evolves as the story kind of comes out?
Oh, that's a very good point, Cyrus. And I'll tell you what, if you're familiar with the old Star Trek show, you're probably too young to remember the original show, but I saw it back in the 60s. And, it was about the heroes in space, the captain and his assistants. There was always somebody called the fifth crewman. And that was the one who was expendable, because we knew we weren't going to kill off the heroes, right?
Right.
Captain Kirk and Spock were always going to come back. But so what Isabella and I have done is create very credible, fully formed fifth crewmen, you might say. These are assistants. These are family members. And people who, we're doing the second book right now. So clearly Jake and Carmen are going to be around for a while. We hope with at least 2 books. Maybe we'll keep going for as long as we can. But those other characters, we'll kill them in a second. And Isabella and I have had a great time saying, how are we going to kill this person? You know what? I kind of like this guy. Let's save him, okay? Let's do that. And then we kind of flip a coin and say, okay, he's safe for the next book.
I love it. I'm going to talk about something, Jeffrey, if you don't mind, from the book that really struck me. I don't think this is going to spoil anything, but I found this to be so interesting, and you can talk as broadly about it as you want to, because one thing that you are definitely known for is your dialogue, and it definitely comes through strong in this book, Fatal Intrusion. And there's that one scene that kind of, I think, really gets me, and it's a character we get to know as Mr. Benedict. And again, I'm going to talk broadly about this, and you can too. And the idea of the push. I think that chapter 24, is one of my favorite chapters in the book. And I made a note of it because there's so many things in there. But talk to us about that, because I think readers, when they get to this chapter and they're kind of seeing what's happening already, they're going to think about their own urges and things that kind of push their buttons and make them do certain things. What was it like for you to kind of get into the head of your characters and kind of see what makes them tick?
Sure. And the push you're referring to is the urge within our main antagonist. His name is Dennison Fallow. And again, he appears to be a serial killer. Well, he is a serial killer, but he's got a little more of an agenda than that. And I have to say, it's kind of tough to get into the mind of somebody like that. And we were talking, and we said, well, Dennison, he's an evil guy. He kills people, and yet he's the hero of his own story. He doesn't wake up and look in the mirror and say, oh, you're a bad guy. You're going to do something bad today. He says, you're a hero in your own right, and you're going to go out and maybe you're going to kill somebody, but that's a good thing to him. And so we had to, I guess the best word is dwell in the darkness with him, and that's what writers do, because to create the most emotionally engaging experience you possibly can, and that's what these books are about. Grabbing the readers by the heart and the soul and the gut, frankly, and dragging them through the book as quickly as you can. You need every character to be fully fleshed out and real. And so that's, it's tough to do, but, that's our job. And we want to give readers a good time, an exciting time. And frankly, we want to scare the socks off them, too.